Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of World of Tanks with Gitbag. Now, I know it's been a very long time since I did a video, and I must apologise for that. The last video I think I did was my playthrough of... the first part of my playthrough of Dark Star 1, which I'm going to be continuing soon in the future. But I just thought I'd come back with another episode of World of Tanks, and in this episode we are going to be looking at the 3 tanks I got over the course of Christmas and my 21st birthday in December and January. The first tank we're going to be having a look at is a tank I got for my 21st birthday, the Panzer IV-S. Panzer IV-S, the S stands for Schmaltram, I believe, because this is a variant of the German Panzer IV medium tank with the Schmaltram turret. And I got this for my 21st birthday from my friend Alex, and you know, this is a pretty good tank. It's not the most nimble medium tank. It's not the most heavily armoured either at tier 6, but I'd definitely give it a recommendation because it is good. It's not too expensive in the gift shop, and it's pretty dangerous. I mean, it's got side skirts at the sides there, which means it's got good side armour. You know, if you angle this thing in like a last ditch situation, you can hold on for quite a bit. The front of its turret is relatively well armoured, and out of all the variants of the Panzer IV you can get in World of Tanks, it's probably the most well armoured all round. And on top of that, it's got this absolutely lethal 75mm long barreled gun. This thing is brutal. It fire. I mean, I've got a gun rammer and crew ventilation fitted, so I've got like the rate of fire up quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, if you fit even without that stuff, it's still quite a quick firing gun. It, I believe, was fitted on some variants of different German tanks and tank stress in the Second World War. But I don't think it was actually fitted onto any Panzer IV variants until quite late into the war, actually, I think. And this variant of the Panzer IV came into battle quite late into the war. You know, it was a bit of a late bird. I mean, to be fair, the Panzer IV was one of the most versatile and well-rounded tanks in the entire Second World War. It wasn't necessarily ahead of its time like many other German tanks were, like the Panzer III or the Tiger, but it made up for that by being able to just be modified so much. I'm sure there are at least, throughout the Second War, there are at least a dozen variants of this thing, and the Germans used them to brutal extent. They were some of the most effective tanks in the entire Second World War. I mean, some tank crews on Panzer IVs racked up more kills than crews, pilots, and things like Panthers and Jagdpanzers. This thing could do a lot of damage. I think in the game there's 5 different types of Panzer IVs. There's this one, the Panzer IV-S, and there's also the Tier 3 Panzer IV-A, the Tier 4 Panzer IV-D, the Tier 5 Panzer IV-H, and then this old beast. And they're all good tanks. The Panzer IV-A is a little bit iffy. It's a Tier 3 tank, so it's not going to be all good. Because the guns on those Tier 3 tanks aren't really accurate enough to do enough damage to moving targets, which is what the enemy are going to be doing a lot of at Tier 3, because most Tier 3 tanks are quite quick, small and nimble. But, I mean, up here at Tier 6 and 5, this gun is just brutal. It fires fast, its standard ammo's got penetration of 150. And, you know, it's got decent enough average damage. Narrowly missed getting hit by the second shot from that K1's howitzer. Usually I'd recommend actually using the 122mm, the 85mm AT gun on that K1. It just seems like a lot more of a practical weapon. Because the things it is with like things like howitzers at Tier 5. the damage they will do is very inconsistent. I mean, that's on the basis really of the fact that how the damage is dealt by a high explosive ammo is a lot different. The mechanics of it are a lot different to armor-piercing ammo. I mean, the high explosive ammo on this thing is near useless. I mean, I carry 5 rounds of it anyway, just in case the enemy are in the cap circle I need to reset the cap or something, but, I mean, aside from that, there's not much point in carrying it anyway. The main thing about this gun is its high rate of fire, penetration and accuracy. The Panzer IV-S is a good sniping tank, but it's also a good line tank. You know, it's good for pushing up the flank, good for helping to bolster weakened defences. Because while it isn't sort of the most mobile and quick Tier 6 medium tank, that type would go to the T-34-85 or the Sherman EZ-8, it's certainly quick enough to get to where it's needed at a critical juncture, to a critical point in the battle when it looks like a part of the flank is going to crumble. I'll take a shot from the SU-100Y. That's very unfortunate because it's got a big gun, and I get killed by the Panzer IV. But I had a good match there. I got 3 kills, I did a fair amount of damage, and it's pretty set now that our team should win. I mean, we'll spectate the ARL-44 for a bit. But yeah, the Panzer IV-S, I definitely recommend it. It's, I think in the gift shop at the moment it's up for about a tenner, about £10 sterling, which isn't too much. But yeah, I definitely give it a recommendation. Okay, so here we are again with another tank that I got recently, and this is the SU-100Y, the Tier 6 Soviet premium tank destroyer, and I got this for Christmas from my friend Random2226, or his real life name is Trevor. And this is quite a different kettle of fish to the Panzer IV-S. The Panzer IV-S is a mobile, quick in a straight line medium tank with good flexible side armour and a quick-firing, rapid-fire, accurate, high-penetration 75mm long barrel of anti-tank gun. The SU-100Y, on the other hand, is quite the different kettle of fish. The SU-100Y is pretty much just a giant box with a 6-inch or 130mm naval gun slapped onto it. It is just pretty much a giant cannon box, and it does a lot of damage. I mean, as you saw, that's a Ferdinand over there, a Tier 8 a Tier 8 tank destroyer, a very heavily armoured Tier 8 tank destroyer, and I just planted a shot into its frontal armour, which is notoriously tough, and penetrated it, and did a lot of damage, because the average damage of the standard ammo on this thing is 440, which is a lot for a Tier 6 tank destroyer. I think the second highest for the average for the standard ammo on another Tier 6 tank destroyer is the SU-100Y, which is a Tier 6 normal Soviet tank destroyer, which has a choice between either a 100mm or a 120mm gun. I mean, both of those guns are pretty good anyway, but this thing is just designed just to do damage. The SU-100Y, talking about it, is designed to maybe put pressure on the enemy flank and act as a fire support vehicle. Because in real life it was designed as like a stopgap to combat things like the Tiger II and the Panther until the Russians could build the IS-1 and the IS-2. The SU-100Y, on the other hand, is pretty much just designed to break down the heavy armour of enemy tanks, because it is just fitted with a fucking big ass 6-inch naval gun. It is just a big box with a gun on it, and that's kind of like the main strength of it, is its gun. Its gun has got a quite slow reload rate, but it's got good penetration for a Tier 6 tank destroyer. It does a hell of a lot of damage per shot. You know, standard average damage for its standard ammo is 440, and for its premium armor piercing it's 510. But it also sacrifices speed and armor. Its armor is just meh. It's not bad, but it's just average. and then its speed is pretty just substandard, and then its manoeuvrability is, you know, just kind of very, very substandard. It's not very mobile, and it's not very well armoured. But it more than makes up for that with the fact that it has a huge 6-inch naval gun slapped on the front. And I mean, this gun isn't particularly accurate. Its accuracy isn't bad, as you can see there, but its aiming time is quite long, and it's not the most accurate Tier 6 tank destroyer. But even then, it can get the job done pretty well. You know, if you just want to do a lot of damage and big smashing blows, then this is the tank for you. And I would recommend getting this thing, because I think it's only a little bit more expensive than the Panzer 4S. If you get into a platoon of 3 of these things, then you're pretty much unstoppable at Tier 6. I mean, you can still be killed quite easily, because like I said, the armour is only substandard, but 330mm 8 naval guns firing at Tier 6 and 5 tanks is going to do a lot of damage. But I mean, of course, you will sometimes get into Tier 8 matches like here on a Malinovka, because unlike, say, the Tonga 2, which is another Tier 6 premium tank, this thing doesn't get preferential matchmaking, meaning that whereas the TOG will only see Tier 6, 5 and 7 tanks, this thing can see Tier 8 matches, as you can see here. I mean, of course, its gun is so big and brutally powerful, it can damage things like the Tiger 2, which itself is very heavily armoured. It's one of the most feared Tier 8 tanks in the game. But this thing is very funny, because if you do get into a top tier match, a Tier 8 match, then it's going to have trouble. Because a lot of the tanks that will be going up against will have things like angled armour, spaced armour. The types of armour that this standard armour piercing ammo will not have very good time penetrating, and that's probably a part of the reason why this tank is not very tactically flexible. Its standard armour ammo is armour piercing, and its premium ammo is also armour piercing. Usually the premium ammo of a tank destroyer is armour piercing, composite, rigid, or at much higher tiers, high explosive anti-tank. But this, because it doesn't get much great penetration on its premium ammo, means that it's very much a one-trick pony. It's just designed to just brutalise enemy tanks, pound them into ground beef, and just smash them to pieces. I mean, I wasn't able to show you that much of a truly exciting match here, because this was just a steamroll, but regardless, I think it shows more than... I think it shows that this is a good tank for doing damage. I mean, especially against those Tiger 2s I was shooting at earlier. It does a lot of damage to tanks of a higher tier, and it can do if you load the standard ammo. Against lower tiers, I'd say maybe load the premium ammo, because it does cost a lot more, but it also does a lot more damage. So, I mean, as you can see, as I pointed out, the horsepower of this tank is 890, but it also weighs nearly 70 tons. But then its speed in a straight line of 35 kilometers an hour isn't bad, and its traverse speed of 30 degrees per second isn't bad either, but it's not particularly good. And its hull armour is only 60 all around. I mean, not 60 on the back isn't too bad actually, but at the same time you can see it's all very flat, so it's quite easy to penetrate. And I mean, fitted with a gun rammer and crew ventilation, you could probably get up to like 4.5 shots a minute. So again, it's a very much one-trick pony, but at the same time, it is a very good one-trick pony. It does a lot of damage, and if you get into a Tier 6 match, then you're going to be laughing your arse off and thinking Christmas has come early, because seriously, this thing is a beast in the right circumstances. I mean, even at Tier 8 it can do a lot of damage, as you saw there. I got a lot of good damaging shots into those Tiger 2s. But anyway, let's have a look at what else I got. Let's have a look at the third and final tank I got recently, which I got for my 21st birthday. Okay, so here we are with the third tank I got recently. I got this one for my 21st birthday recently, and this is from my best friend Brendan, who on World of Tanks is called Thunderrunner 487. And this is the IS-6 Tier 8 Premium Soviet Heavy Tank. It's very archetypal to the stereotype of other Tier 8 heavy tanks from Russia and China in World of Tanks, in that it's light for a Tier 8 heavy tank, low profile, mobile, quick, got a gun with high alpha damage but low penetration, and its armour has got an okay thickness, but the main strength of its armour is that it's very well angled. And that's the main strength of this tank, is its mobility and its armour. Unlike, say, as I said earlier, on the SU-100Y, where the main strength of that vehicle is primarily its gun, this thing is primarily characterised by its low profile and its good mobility, and its very, very good armour. Because the gun on it isn't bad. It's a good gun. It's the same gun you get on the IS-1 Tier 7 heavy tank. And you can also get this gun, actually, I think, on the SU-100 Tier 6 tank destroyer. But, pardon me, but at Tier 8, this gun doesn't really have the penetration to consistently damage and hound tanks at the same tier. Against things like the Panther over there, yeah, it can do a lot of damage if it hits. Unfortunately, that shot wasn't very well aimed, and the gun is a little bit inaccurate. So, yeah, I wouldn't say always rely on it for sniping jobs. Still, a shot like that where it's immobilised, you know, you're going to do well. That shot, actually, though, was pretty low damage roll. I mean, the average damage of this gun is 390. I only got 331 there. I mean, the penetration, though, of the gun on its own with standard ammo is only 175. With premium ammo, I think it's... yeah, with premium ammo, it gets 217 millimeters penetration. But even then, that's only a bit better than the standard ammo on the Tiger at Tier 7. You know, this is a good gun, but at Tier 8, it's kind of just a bit lacking in that extra bit of penetration you need to get through the frontal armour of enemy heavy tanks. I mean, I can kill Tier 8, even Tier 9 heavy tanks with the Tiger's gun because it's accurate and it's high penetration. This thing, it's got alright penetration, it's got a lot of good, it does good alpha damage, but it's just that accuracy, it's a little bit off. And the penetration, like I said, is not all that good for a tank of this tier. For a gun of this tier, it's good. But the tank itself is just too high a tier for this gun to be consistently effective. That doesn't mean it's a bad tank, though. It's a good tank. I'd definitely recommend it. You know, it can consistently push up the flank and hold the line, much like the IS-3 can. One of the standard Tier 8 Soviet heavy tanks. I mean, I suppose this is a bit more tactically flexible, though, than the SU-100Y. Again, because it's Tier 8 and there's a lot more availability for tanks at Tier 8. And also because it's just a lot faster, it's more mobile, and it's got a gun that's more rapid fire. Well, I say rapid fire, it's still not very fast firing. It only fires like one shot every 10 seconds. I mean, but, yeah, I mean, the more sort of equipment you put on this thing, the more you will be able to get into more situations where other Tier 8 heavy tanks would be less tactically applicable. It's a very flexible heavy tank, and it's almost as durable in terms of its armour as the IS-3, but at the same time it's got the same kind of basic tactical finesse and elegance as, say, the AMX 5100, the Tier 8 French heavy tank. Because that thing is, I think, the quickest of the Tier 8 heavy tanks. But It's also the lightest armour, it's the lightest, and I think it has the least health. I'm not entirely sure. But this tank is able to sort of double up on that with having a gun that's not hampered by the limitations of the reload time of a clip of an autoloader, because the AMX-50-100 works with an autoloader. And also, this thing has the armour of a comparable Tier 8 heavy tank, whereas the AMX-50-100 doesn't. You know, this tank can push up, it can hold the line. It's not the best at doing that. The IS-3 and the KV-4, the other Tier 8 Russian heavy tanks, are vastly superior at doing that. Hell, I've also got the KV-5, which is another Tier 8 Russian heavy tank, but that's very rare. That's also very good at pushing up and holding the line, but then again, it's also very rare, as I said. It's not, you know, you're not going to have much opportunity to learn how to use that, because it's, because you can't buy it in the gift shop. This you can buy in the gift shop, and it's, you know, there's lots of examples of how to drive it that I've seen before. Unfortunately, I think I'm dead here. Yeah. I wasn't really going to get out of that one. I was tracked constantly, and the Tiger one was just pumping shots into my frontal drive wheel. But for like a guy in a Tier 8 match, that guy did pretty well. So yeah, I mean that's the IS-6, and we're going to spectate the IS-3 for a bit. Just to get an idea of how this works. This has the same alpha damage, but it has slightly higher penetration, and this you can just get on the standard tech tree. And I suppose that's the general theme of the premium tanks on World of Tanks, is that they're more expensive, but again you have to pay for them with real money. And they have the same comparable handling as Tier 8 tanks. And they're a lot cheaper to run and make a lot more money, but at the same time they just have features of them that cripple them, or maybe not so much cripple, but at least weaken them in terms of making them not as effective as normal Tier 8 tanks. The IS-6 is comparable to the IS-3 in terms of armour, speed and mobility and profile and camo value, but in terms of gun, the IS-3 is vastly superior. But regardless, I'd still say give the IS-6 a try. It's a good heavy tank, and if anything, it's a good money maker at least. That's the case with the Tier 8 premium tanks, is they all have big weaknesses. The T-34 has poor side armour, the Lowy is slow and a big target, the IS-6 has a sort of a very average gun, the Jagdtiger 8.8 isn't all that mobile, and the FCM-50T is very lightly armoured. But they all have the particular sort of features of them that make them just world beaters. The T-34 has high alpha damage, the Lowy has a good sniping gun, the FCM-50T is very mobile, and the IS-6 is a good all-rounder, and that's how I'd best describe playing it as. Not so much as a brawler, not so much as a flanker, but just as a everyman tank. Keeping it in the position where you can move to points on the front line where you're most needed, and where you can beat the reload of most Tier 8 heavy tanks. And with the alpha damage of this 122mm gun, you'll be able to do a lot of damage. And then linking back to the SU-100Y, again, like I said earlier, that's also just primarily used for damage, but that's it. The SU-100Y is just a big damage cannon. It's a big glass cannon. It's weakly armoured, but it's got a gun that can take out Tier 8 and even Tier 9 tanks. I still wouldn't recommend getting it into Tier 9 games, because that would be suicide. And then, of course, the Panzer IV-S, which is, again, in a not a too dissimilar way to the IS-6, is flexible, comparable to its tier. It's not the best Tier 6 medium tank by any stretch of the imagination, but it's at least got the capabilities to go toe-to-toe with other ones, considering that it's got relatively good armour for a Tier 6 medium tank, and its gun has penetration and accuracy and aiming time that more than makes up for most of the shortcomings it has. But regardless, I just wanted to come back with a quick little look into these 3 tanks and, you know, just to give a recommendation to them, because if you're looking for middle tier premium tanks to just bulk out your tank garage when you first started the game, then the SU-100Y and the Panzer IV are definitely good buys. And when you get to higher tiers and you need to start making some proper money, then I'd definitely give the IS-6 a recommendation as well. It's not the cheapest tier 8 premium, but it's sort of like one of the more middle-priced ones. So yeah, I'd definitely give all 3 of the tanks I showed you today a recommendation. But I'm going to have to head off now because I am pretty hungry and I need to make my dinner. And I just wanted to come back with just this little interlude and just give you a look at what's been happening recently in my garage. But anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys on the battlefield.